Alright, hello everybody. This is a quick tutorial on how to do animations for Arma 3. Um, I will be including this basic rig and the test folder and the config for testing. As far as making all your own configs to place it into a mod pack or something, you will need to figure that shit out yourself. Also, there's an issue with the weapons and the launcher and how they attach to the rig. I will not be covering that. It has to do with basically have to use the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the attach modifier, something like that. Anyways, I'm not going to mess with all that. We're just going to do a simplified animation. So let's get started. First off, we have our timeline down here. This one, the rig was set up with a 900 frame, 936 frame timeline. That's way more than what we're looking for. 30 frames per second. So let's make a 10-second. No, let's not do 10 seconds. Let's do a 5-second animation. So 5 times 3 is 15. So that means we need 150 frames. So that's our in time. And the adjustment on the timeline also means that you'll be able to see your keyframes a little bit easier. So to start off, what we're going to do is we're going to set the auto key, and then we need to adjust it. Now, on this rig, something that Apache and I have done is we've set something called a planted key, which keeps these feet in position. It won't let them go below the, what is it, the Z-axis. Yeah, it won't let it go below the Z-axis, which is the floor plane, which can save you a lot from your person disappearing through the ground or something along those lines. Now let's say we're going to grab him and move him. If you see, he's automatically going to bend because his feet do not want to go down below the ground. However, if you move him above, his feet will go above the ground because he doesn't care about that part. But they won't go below. But now if you try to move him below, he's going to do all sorts of twisty, bendy, horrible things. But nobody should be swimming under the dirt anyway, so that shouldn't really be an issue for you. Now, if you're trying to do something like a walking animation, there's 3DS tutorials that'll teach you how to do footsteps. I believe it's under the motion tab. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole different beast. You have to get your looping correct and all that. And either way, I don't do walking animations because I think they're kind of pointless to try to manipulate that. Although having a gangster ass swag would be kind of fun. Maybe like a hip hop thug with sagging his pants, looking like he shit himself, would be kind of hilarious. But we're not going to get into that. So now we're looking at our rig with our mesh on top. You see the blue hand, the green hand. You say, well, what's the deal with that? That's actually your skeleton. Skeleton is a function called biped. It's in 3DS, and it simplifies animations. So what was done originally is, I think it's Dinos Bino 1 who set up this original skeleton, and then we've modified it to work a little bit better for our purposes. But using the biped is a lot easier than cat rigging, for me at least. Cat rigging can give you a lot more true to life looking animations. One of the problems with the biped is if you take something like the hand and you move it up above, here let's not make it so terrible bendy there, and you move the shoulder up, it will look broken or stretched. So you really don't want to move too much above shoulder level. Now, when you do that, what you'll need to do is you need to actually unfreeze and move each chunk of the mesh closer or farther away as you go in and test your animation. But we're not going to worry about that. Just Control Z back to where we were. Okay, so what our basic deal here is, okay, we want to get back to where we don't have any keyframe set. See, there's a keyframe set here. So we want it back to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide the mesh initially because I find it easier to work just based off of the skeleton. Okay, and we need information set on every bone on the initial keyframe. The reason for that is if you have no data set on every bone, like let's say you make an adjustment on frame 30, um, well, it's kind of hard to explain why that's a problem, but you'll have to trust me that you do want data set on every single frame. So what I usually do is I just give it a tiny, tiny adjustment. Okay, so that's a little bit down, hair off to the right, and a hair off to the front. There. So that gives us data on the X, Y, and Z coordinates. That makes it so that we don't have to worry about it later on down the line. See, what it'll be is like, let's say in frame 150, we finally move him forward or backwards, but there's no data ahead of that. We can't tell it to, we don't have anything to push forward for it to pull that data from, so it ends up making a long, slow, drawn out animation from the start frame to the frame where you finally make that adjustment, and it can make it look kind of goofy. So having that data on your first frame helps. So what we're going to do is, what do we want to do? I have no idea. Let's see. Uh, let's make your classic Joe Pesci style of flipping someone off. An insult animation. Gotta have one of those, right? That, yeah, for 5 seconds, that's about right. Yeah, I think we'll be all right. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is frame 0's got our base data on it, but we need to move up to like frame 10, and we'll take and start moving our hand. Gonna move it up to where we want it. Let's see, right about here, because we don't want it to be too fast. Too fast is twitchy. So I'm just using the W key to go into move, the E key to go into rotation, and I'll rotate it like that. Then we'll go into the view thing up here. This chooses what your coordinates are based off of. Ooh, almost. Oh yeah, see, the base rig is going to start out in perspective. I personally don't really like animating in perspective. I like orthographic because it allows you to get a lot closer. So then I'm going to come in here, and I got the hand. Now you have to be careful because if you start like this, what's going to happen is as you start animating, the mesh is going to follow through with whatever the bone is. So if I curve this finger in, the mesh is not going to necessarily follow the biped. It's going to, it's going to follow the general orbit of it, and it's just going to fly off. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually freeze the mesh so that it locks it into place upon the biped, and that'll prevent that from happening. So don't forget to do that. Okay, so now we're in view, so the rotation is based off of where you're looking. Now that's not going to be good for rotating the fingers, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to local, and that's going to rotate based off of the actual bones, and that'll be a little bit easier for us. So we're going to move this up and give it a little bit of a curve here. And let's see. Well, I suppose if you're flipping someone off, you usually keep the thumb out, don't you? Maybe not that much. There we go. We'll go with about there. Okay, so now we're going to start curving these fingers in, and I like to, if I'm in local, what I'll do is I'll double click the lowest joint and then find the correct axis that I want to rotate it on. And it tends to give you a reasonable curve to the bone. Now sometimes you'll need to actually adjust that. You don't always want to double click, sometimes you want to move the joints individually. But in this case, we're doing it the simple way, so we'll just do it this way. Normally I like to, curve the bones a little bit more realistically, but like I said, I'm just doing a kind of a simplified version, so that's what we're going to go through with. So there we go, we got this, and there, and that's a middle finger extended. Okay, so that's our first animated frame set. Now that's data put onto the bicep, forearm, hand, fingers, etc. So now if we rewind it, he starts at 0, goes up, puts the hand up. Lots of empty frames yet though, so we got a lot more to do. So 10 is where we're at there. Let's go up to 20. Okay, we're going to move back out of local and go to view for this because I find it a little bit easier for the wrist to be in view. You might find local is easier. Whatever fits your preferred situation. So we're going to move that up a little bit. But now we got the left arm just sitting here dead. That's pretty lame. So let's move that up. Frame 20. Now you're going to see what I'm talking about here. See, there was no data on frame 10 for this joint. So it's going to be a much slower animation that's going to follow from frame 0 up to frame 20. So that's why you want to have that data on frame 1 so that you can actually take and I could say, okay, this I don't want that to be slow. I want it to go from basically where it was, and I can shift click this frame, move it up to frame 10, and now it won't move until after frame 10. There's a little bit of adjustment going on there. I'm not sure why. Something's got data there, but anyways, we're actually going to let that slide and be what it is. Let it be slow because we need something extra lewd attached to that. So 20. Okay, there we go. And then in order to get this looking right, we're going to need to do this and this. And you'll have to learn basically how to bend the skeleton on your own. I guess I could go through and tell you every little bit and bob about it, but it's kind of lame and it kind of denies the point of learning something. So here we go. So we're going to adjust that out. Obviously, we don't want that clipping right there. If his hand is going through his body, it looks really bad. I work pretty hard to make sure I don't ever have clipping, but you know, sometimes little things slip through. So now you see the biped and you're like, okay, well, that looks good, right? Well, it doesn't, because you got to check the mesh. You always got to check the mesh. Double check the mesh all the time. So there we go. We got that. Looking like this is way too close. All right, there we go. Let's see. Is it that one? No, it's this one. There we go. And so it's not a bad thing to work with the mesh showing if that works better for you, but sometimes you're going to find it to be a bigger pain in the ass than it's worth, so you just got to do whatever feels right for you. So we're going to have him grab himself in a lewd Michael Jackson-esque manner. I got your hot dog over here kind of thing. Okay, so that's that. And add a little bit more to this. Alright, so that's frame 30 we got done there. Let's go up to frame 40. And this is going to be a little bit, just move it around to make it look slightly more realistic, I guess. Nobody stands perfectly still. Oh, this is still set on local. Let's not do that. Let's go back to view. There we go. And let's tip that a little bit. And move it out and move it around. The more movement you add to an animation, the better it looks. Sometimes the movement can actually go against you. So you got to be kind of careful in how that works. All right, let's rewind it and see how it looks so far. Yep, just basically roughly kind of lewd. All right, frame 40 was where we're at. Alright, frame 40. Do we have data here? Oh, we had some data there. Okay, so now we have our base animation there. Let's see. Okay, see now I like to add in a little bit of breathing to it, make them look a little bit realistic. So I will take and, oh, not on frame 0, you don't want to do that. So on frame 10. We're going to come in here and add some roll to the spine. So I'm going to add just a hair of forward on each vertebrae, progressively adding more as we go higher up. And then on frame 20, we're going to try to go back. Now the simple thing here is we just go and highlight all this. Okay, all that data is right there. Copy. Oh, I suppose we gotta copy our first frame too. There we go. Nothing extra in there. Perfect. Copy our initial frame. We got our 3 frames set. Now I just shift click. Alright, rewind the animation and let's put the mesh on and see how terrible this looks. Now that's not a very good breathing animation, but it's something better than nothing. The more animation you can add to an animation, the better it'll look, right? The difference between this is we're hand keying all these frames, which is never going to look as good as, say, like a motion captured animation, but you know, not everybody has a motion capture studio, so it is what it is as far as that goes. Alright, so let's grab these hips and kind of do the same thing. We got base frame there, frame 10, add a little bit of movement here. Let's swing him a little bit to the left, go up to frame, well, see, we don't want to do it too fast, so let's go up to frame 30, and then we'll swing him back to the right, and then add a little bit of back. And a little bit of down. And then go up to frame 50. And go a little bit more down. Back to the left. And forward a little bit. Alright, there we go. Now we'll just copy all these. Alright, shift it there. 130, so we need our first one here. And our base again. So now obviously this isn't going to look perfect by any means, but it'll look a little bit more gangster, I would think. Looks like he's drunk and willing to fight, right? Alright, so a little bit of body motion in there. He's breathing, he's bouncing, he's whatever. So what was our last frame with this? It's frame 40. So let's go up to frame 50. And let's make it a little bit more wacky, huh? Let's pull this hand out. Well, not that much out, but because when you start straightening it out that much, you see that weird bend in the elbow. Let's hide the mesh, because I like to rotate off of the bicep. Okay, once we got that, we're going to give a little bit of this. Okay, he'll stop grabbing his crotch now. And move his other arm up. Okay, see now this is a transition frame here, so we're not going to worry about where its final position is because we're going to bring it up, and he's going to do that weird under the chin flick thing that is insulting in so many different ways. So we're just going to go 10 by 10, we're going to steadily move it up to that, and go in here, go to local, we're not going to move them all as curved as a middle finger was, but we are going to move it a little bit. Why is that? Oh, it's still under view. There we go. So let's curve it just a little bit. Okay, that was good. Well, let's add a little bit of curve here. Those small adjustments make a world of difference. It's strange, but it works. Okay. Oh, yeah, you don't want to grab that proxy box. It doesn't do anything. They're necessary, so don't ever delete them, though. Okay, so the only thing is, this is not going to look terribly good as far as it's going to be very open splayed fingers, and that's not going to be quite right. So I'm going to try to bring the fingers a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, get out of local again, go to view. Oh, it just wants to jump into local every time, huh? There we go, we're gonna get this fucker right up underneath the chin. There we go. Alright, and we're gonna go up to frame 70 and we'll finish that out here. Okay, there's that. There we go. Just kind of keep adding little tweaks in, and the more crap you add to it, the better it'll look. And just, oh, yeah, see, we didn't have nothing here for 60, so that's going to be like a dead spot. So we can always backtrack, though. And add little bits. And this way he's kind of waving his middle finger around and whatever. Okay, honestly, we're going to go ahead and trim it down. We're going to go to 3 seconds. Just because I can't be bothered to add all this extra crap into it. So now by highlighting the whole thing, we can see all the frames that we have animations on. Start from scratch, look at back at this. He's grabbing himself, he's flipping him off with the chin, all that. So what we want to do is, we got the whole thing highlighted. Let's hide it real quick. Grab our initial frame, because that has data for every bone, which is why we did that. Drag it on down to 90. And now he should go from the initial, or he should go through all his animations and he should go back to his initial start position. So yeah, it's a little wobbly, weird, and all that good stuff. It's not a very high quality animation, just a little insulting thing, whatever. Not worried about hyper realism on this. I'm doing this in like 10 minutes rather than doing it in 8 hours, which I normally would spend on a keyframed animation. So now we've got all that set up. So what we need to do is come up to our layers, unfreeze the bones, and hide the BIP. The BIP bipod is the BIP. Okay, so now we have an animation roughly ready for export. So I will try to include the max script for this, um, which is the RTM import exporter, but I don't know if I will. So if not, good luck in finding it. It's not that hard. It's just a 3ds attachment thing. But you want to make sure that you have nothing other than the actual mesh named things. So like if you click on this, this is a left arm roll, which is a roll bone in the mesh, whatever. You want to make sure that you don't have any bipod stuff in there. So like if we had left the bipod in there, um, you would see BIP left arm roll, etc., and that would be no good. Also, you're going to have a couple bones that you definitely need in there: camera, weapon, and launcher. The camera bone is actually right here, and that's for third-person cameras, so that it knows where to put the view at, and we've pretty much rigged that to be the right spot. Um, so that should be good. So now we're going to take that and we're ready to export it. So now this is a pain in the ass. So basically you just click add, then you hit period to move it down one, and then click add again. So I'm going to do that over and over and over until I've hit 90 frames. Okay, that's all of that. So just click make RTM. We're going to put that just on the desktop because YOLO. Gotta get out of caps. Okay, we got our RTM there. Save, it'll take it a second to export it. Alright, now I will include also in the download links the test folder, which is going to be, it's going to be named at testanims in order to get that to run. And I will include this as well. You need to have the command line to launch a mod pack in there. When you run your Arma 3, well, I think I have my Steam open. We can look at this. Yeah, let's look at that real quick. Basically, you're going to go into your library, find your Arma 3, right click it, properties, set launch options, and you'll need this put in, but instead of CL3 anims, you're going to need test anims. That needs to match 100%. That is what it's named there. So there we go. Okay, so now when my Arma 3 launches, it'll launch that mod pack as well. So now what we need to do is we can minimize this. Our RTM is done. Minimize OBS, recording software. Okay, and find our demo RTM. Because this is a throwaway one, I'm actually just going to cut it. Normally I would always keep a duplicated copy, but okay, the test animation folder that I'll include with it won't have all this extra stuff in there. Yeah, it won't have any of these. It'll have just this test anims folder. And then you need to place your test animation in here. So demo, we're going to delete this. Well, here we'll cheat. Right click that, copy the name with a little control C action. Delete it. Alright, we're going to rename this. Boom, that makes that our new test anim. And the reason for that is in our config.cpp, I'm going to take a quick look at this. And test anim referenced here. Config class is referenced. File is referenced testanim.rtm. So we want to make sure that that's all named correctly. The speed on this is actually set weird. Let's do 3. That should be right. I might have fucked it up there. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so that's saved. Close that. And we go back, and you'll need to have your ARMA 3 tools and PBO manager. And that'll give you the option to, when you right click it, go to PBO manager, tack into testanim.pbo. Okay, done. That other people like to delete that before they pack it. I don't particularly care, so I don't. Okay, so now that should be all good to test actually. Let's look in the library and boot up ARMA 3, which will take forever on my piece of shit computer. So remain patient, give it just a moment, play with yourself for a minute, whatever you gotta do. If I was a better man, I would include the Jeopardy music during this period of time, but I'm not going to because I don't care. Okay, it's loading up. Takes forever. I don't have a very good graphics card. Actually, I don't have a graphics card. I have integrated graphics, so that makes that phenomenal, as you can imagine. It plays everything extremely well, as in it doesn't. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so that's booted up. Let's go into the editor, take a look-see. I tend to just go to Stratus, I don't know why. Let's grab a civilian. He doesn't need a name. Make sure he's playable because that's what I have the thing set as. I'll try to include all these commands that I'm using, which are not terribly complex, and it's nothing that you can't figure out on your own. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, there we go. Here, let's go into camera so we can actually see. Oh yeah, how do I get up the debug thing again? Damn it. Oh, F1. And there you go. Working animation in ARMA 3. Now, like I said, as far as actually configuring that in or whatever, you'll have to figure that out yourself. Setting up it in mod packs or whatever. I'm not going to do all that. So, anyways, I will try to include all the links to everything, the ARMA 3 rig, that Apache setup, Apache and Dino Spino setup. I had a little bit of help with that, I guess. Or I helped a little bit with that. Mostly they did all the hard work. I will include the test animations at folder along with the config.cpp, which will be just a basic test config. As far as how to add that into your own mod or whatever, don't message me or ask me because I'm not going to go into it. I will try to include all the player switch move stuff too so that you can test your animations. You can do this exact same thing in a free program called Blender. The rig in there is a little bit different, and the workflow for it is different as well, but it's basically the same thing. There's an RTM exporter to export your frames. Blender is free, and so is all the equipment for it. I believe Dino Spino also did the Blender rig for it as well, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, I guess thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this helps you in some way, shape, or form. Um, yeah. All right. Goodbye.